Hello, everybody. C. Ray Brower here with Your Perfect Home, and we've got John Lone King from Summit Funding on today, and we're going to find out a whole bunch of new stuff coming up next. And we are back. How's it going, John?
I am amazing. How are you, C. Ray?
If I was any better, I'd have to be twins.
I love it. I love it. Your attitude is infectious. There are few people that I know that are as just positive and energetic, and I think it's crazy how big of a difference that makes in people. So I know you know this, but I just wanted to remind you that I appreciate it. I'm sure a lot of people in your life do too.
Well, thank you so much. The other thing that when you asked me how, and I said if I was any better, I'd be twins. That's something I say all the time. But it made me think of something my dad used to say all the time.
Yeah.
And that was, if I was any better, I'd have to hire you to help me have this much fun.
And now you're employing more people. So that's great. That's definitely something our economy needs.
Yeah, exactly. So we've made it through the holidays.
We did.
Did you have a great Christmas, New Year's, and MLK Day?
I did. So we stayed dry. So that was good. I think, such unfortunate challenges that everybody's been dealing with in California. So, I kept electricity through the whole thing, stayed dry. So I can't complain there. Had to change my commute a couple of days over some shutdown highways, but if that's the least of my concerns, I consider myself blessed. So
very blessed, very, very blessed. Yeah, I can't say that I was able to stay dry through the whole thing. Had a couple of gutters back up, so I had to be out in the rain. During that would have been last Friday.
Okay.
Friday or Sunday, I don't remember. Anyway, on my street, when we have a big rain, the storm system doesn't handle all the water. So the standpipes for the manhole covers actually create an air hammer and cause the manhole covers to pop up. The first time it happened was probably, 10, 15 years ago. And it's 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. It's storming hard outside. And I keep hearing this clang, 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 clang. Clang, 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 clang. I'm going, what is that? Go open the door, listen, nothing, shut the door. Clang, 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 clang. I finally stood in the door and watched in the manhole outside. I watched it come up and bang, bang, bang down into place, right?
Yeah.
About the next time that it came up, it flipped clear out of the hole. So I put on my coat and went out, and there was 3 of them down the street that were out of their hole, or at least sitting up. They weren't clear out of the hole. Well, this last storm, the one not in front of my house, but the next one down, I guess somebody had hit it and knocked it clear out of the hole. So I'm out putting in manhole covers, my old job.
What do those things weigh?
Somewhere around 100 pounds.
Okay. Yeah, but still, that's nothing light to be able to, get that thing back into where it goes.
When they're just leaning in the hole, it's not hard. You just kick them and they fall in. But this one was upside down.
Oh.
So there was nothing I could get a grip on. I kept trying. I had to come home in the rain, pouring, get a shovel to get under it, get it up, flip it over into the hole, and save somebody from taking out their front tire.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've got to do what you got to do. I know one of my friends had a tree fall across the road just down the street from their home, and they thankfully they had a neighbor with a chainsaw. The bad news was it fell at 3 o'clock in the morning, and the neighbor wanted to do his duty before anybody's morning commute. So at 4 a.m., the neighbor was out there with the chainsaw. Yeah, we got mixed feedback on how much they appreciated him with the chainsaw versus they didn't appreciate his timing of choosing to do so at 4 a.m.
We had one in front of the house many years ago that blew over into the street right after my daughter left to go to school.
Okay.
It would have smashed her car. When the city of Stockton, my neighbor called me to say that it had fallen, and she had already called the city of Stockton. The city of Stockton came out and cut it up immediately.
Yeah.
Wasn't one of these like we've been having,
Yeah.
but they came out and cut it up immediately. But they left a 7.5 foot tall stump leaned out over my sidewalk.
Oh man! And they thought that was safe.
I called them when the next morning, because I got home at 6. I called them at 8, and hey, you're coming back out to get the rest of this? Oh no, we're done.
Wow.
Well, what am I going to do with this stump? That's up to you.
Yep.
It's in your yard. I said, but it's your tree.
Yep.
But I got to pay to take it down. But
Oh,
this
how
storm,
fortunate
the neighbor down the street, he had one just lean over on his house. It didn't crash into his house. It just leaned over, took out the gutter and the eave and what have you. But it was there for like 4 or 5 days before they got somebody out with a crane and all that to get it off his house.
Yeah, no, that's definitely been a challenge, and hopefully we're out of the woods. I don't know. I haven't looked enough at the weather report, but I understand that we're supposed to be hitting some dry times now. I hope
we got a window of dry.
Got it.
Let's hope it isn't like last year where we were way over average, and then we didn't get nothing, and they let all the water out, and we were still in a drought because they let everything go.
You know, it's funny. My wife said something. I don't know what you said that reminded me of this, but she said Monday was the saddest day of the year, statistically speaking. And they said it's the third Monday in January. Now, somebody's going to tell me I'm wrong, and I probably am, because, you know, I didn't memorize, I didn't read the article, but she said the third Monday in January is right around when the credit card bills come in from December's credit card spending. You are done with the holidays, and sometimes people have a little bit of lingering vacation or things they're doing in the first couple of weeks. And so you're really back to, man, I got to go to work. Like it's back to work time. And it's usually rainy. Like from a statistical perspective, the weather is typically bad. And it was pouring rain on Monday. And so putting it all together, I'm like, I guess so. Well, then I guess for the rest of the year, it can only go up from here. So that's a good way to look at it, right?
Exactly. Like statistically, more people commit suicide in Seattle than anywhere else in the United States.
That would make sense from a weather perspective.
Yeah, always gloomy and raining, and
Yeah.
affects your psyche unless you're the sunshine in somebody's rainy day.
Way to fit it in, C. Ray. Yeah, I knew you had to find. I opened the door for you. You jumped right through it. Good job. Good job.
So,
what you do?
What's happening with the market right now as far as interest rates and stuff are going? That's always in somebody's wheelhouse of finding out.
It is. So, in general, rates are moving. The good news is that I could have said that a year ago and it was an accurate statement. What we don't have is stability, and the sad truth is that's what we need the most. I don't know. I mean, I can tell you all the statistics, or at least I can guess at them and pretend they're true. 87% of statistics are made up. You know that, C-Ray.
I do,
including this one.
Perfect.
Right? But the fact is that, and I'm happy to talk about what is going on. But I think the bigger issue is, how can you plan when there is no stability? How can you, as a potential home buyer, a potential home seller, a current homeowner, how do you plan for your future finances if you don't have any stability to use for planning?
Right.
And we've had no stability over the last 12 to 15 months. And we're not having any stability today. The good news is the instability is moving in the right direction. Rates are coming down. We're seeing rates we're starting to tickle the high fives. Realistically, we're just into the low sixes still, but January's been great for interest rates. We've seen a downward trend in rates since the second week in November. So we're 60 days into a gradual downward trend. And I think that trend's going to continue. But here's the problem. If I'm a home buyer today and I see interest rates went from, 7.25% to 6% in 60 days, well, then simple logic says where are rates going to be 60 days from now? Well, another 1.25% lower. By the way, I don't think that's the case. But I think that's what instability does for you. Instability says, well, rates are going down, and so I might as well wait because they're continuing to go down. I think that's super reasonable. I'm not sure it's the right approach, but I can't deny that, gosh, why pay more today if it's clear that tomorrow, everyday rates have been getting a little better?
Right.
Then I shouldn't pull the trigger yet. If we find consistency, if we find stability, if I say to C-Ray for the next 6 months, rates are going to be at 5.25, can you make plans?
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
When you don't know, and that's where I think we're going to struggle. When we continue to struggle, is things are moving so quickly. Information moves so quickly today. The economy is moving super quickly, and things are almost changing on a dime.
Yeah.
And the struggle, if I'm going to be a little more macro, a little bigger picture, I think our biggest struggle right now is that the Federal Reserve is using data that takes a while to change.
Right.
And yet things are changing on a dime. And the Fed is saying, well, we got to wait it out. We got to see what happens. And we're not in that world anymore. They're calling from a playbook that was written 10 years ago and a playbook that was written 40 years ago. They're calling from the playbook of what Ben Bernanke did from 2008 to 2012. Right. And they're pulling from the playbook of what Volcker did in 1980.
Right.
And information, technology, economies move so much faster. And I think that's, I'm not sure if I answered your question or created more, but I think that's our biggest struggle right now is just nothing is consistent.
Right.
And people hate change.
Right. We all hate change. We all want things in order, smooth. But yeah, right now we do not have that. I mean, good news is we're starting into the year and we're seeing inventory starting to tick up a little bit. That's a normal. We normally see December with a dive and January it starts ticking up. Interest rates continue to stay or come down a little bit. I think we'll continue to see a normal year, which we haven't seen for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Which we have not seen for a couple of years.
Do you think we're going to see more inventory this year?
Do I think
inventory? Do you think inventory is going to increase? We saw the increase from December to January. What do you see the rest of the year, and who do you see as the where do you see the inventory coming from? I guess is my question for you.
Inventory will come from people that are having to move. The D's, divorce, degrees, deliveries, those D's in life that happen to all of us and force us to do something.
Yep.
And that's always been a good portion of the inventory. The inventory, if rates kind of stay in that 5.5, 6 kind of range, I think people will get used to that, and then inventory will be. It's just normally it's going to be what's happening. This is normal, right? I mean, I got the book.
Oh, the book.
The old book.
Mm-hmm.
Interest rate book. This was Chicago title. I know it's got a date in it somewhere. Anyway, these I got a stack of them from my niece, who's my brother-in-law by marriage, had been a mortgage broker back in the day, and the lowest rate in that book was 8%.
Yes.
And it was home mortgage rates, and it went up to, I think it's 20.
I couldn't agree with you more. I actually have the same book. We call it Google,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we have
I keep
Google.
that book in my pocket. And sorry, C-Ray, I had to give you a hard time, my friend.
Hey, I appreciate it. You know, I always dish it out, so I expect some of it to come back.
Absolutely. And if you're a good disher, you have to be a good receiver, right?
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, here's I've talked to a lot of people on both sides of the conversation, and I'm going to extrapolate a little bit what I heard you say, which is these rates are great compared to 20 years ago. Is that essentially where you're going? I agree with that argument. Literally, you're 100% correct. But I have a hard time myself having a 2.8% interest rate on my mortgage, opting, if I'm going to downsize, I'm actually not going to save any money, because even though I buy a $100,000 smaller home, and the logic is 100% correct that rates are still amazing, but the difference is we've got a huge segment of homeowners who have really, really low interest rates.
Right.
And it's that segment that holds more power. I'm gonna use a completely unrelated analogy, which most analogies are completely unrelated, so that was a bit redundant. Yes, but we're the redundancy department of redundancy. Yes. So it is I was listening to a podcast this morning, and they were talking about the economy, and they were talking about job losses, and they were talking about the argument that people have about, hey, housing market's going to crash because everybody's losing their job. Microsoft lost, what did they say? 10,000 people that Microsoft said yesterday they're going to be laying off.
Right.
And I don't remember the number, and I should, but what the economist on the podcast said is, look, yeah, you've got 10,000 people at Microsoft that lost their job. I've got 1.5 billion people. I have no idea what the number is, but a huge number of the American population that has a job. And so these people are going to be harmed, and I mean no disrespect to their plight and what they're going to deal with. But the truth is, you've got a huge number of people that have jobs, that have stability, that they're going to be able to pay their mortgage just fine. The economy is not going to crash. They're not going to have to sell their home. We're going to have pockets. We're going to have issues in Cupertino, maybe. We're going to have issues in Boise or Seattle because we got tech pockets that are going to be impacted. Right. But it's not going to create a national issue. The large segment is going to provide stability compared to the small segment that has instability.
Right.
I think the opposite's going to be true when it comes to inventory and sellers selling, because even though logic says, hey, rates are still great compared to history, it is, but they're really bad compared to what I have. And the D's are this group, and the D's has to sell. But those have to sell people are, in my view, a much smaller segment of the population. My concern for 2023 is we're going to continue to be in uncharted territory, because we're going to have low inventory. We're going to have not a crash, because a crash means you have a bunch of people that have to sell. You're simply going to have people that don't have to sell, and the ones that want to buy are limited in their choices. And so that's my biggest concern, honestly, going forward. I think if rates drop too quickly, we're going to risk going back to 2020 and 2021. We're going to risk all the people that missed the boat, that didn't buy because they couldn't get an offer accepted. And in 2020 and 2021, they tried to buy in 22, but now they can get their offer accepted, but they can't afford the payment because the rate went up. So now that it comes back down, rates are reasonable, they can afford the monthly payment, they go to write an offer, there's very few homes listed for sale. My worst case scenario, my biggest fear of what could literally come true isn't a crash. It's back to no inspection contingencies, no appraisal contingencies. I'd be curious your opinion on a market that waives all of those contingencies, but I'll give you mine real quick. I think it's unhealthy. I think that it creates issues when you've got buyers that have no alternative but to waive all their contingencies, and now you're stuck with something you didn't know what you were getting into, and that's kind of the point of an inspection period, isn't it?
Absolutely is the point of the inspection period, and all the contingencies is to make sure that you are completely informed all the way through. And I agree completely. If you want to waive the appraisal contingency because you got the cash so that you can go over appraised value, it statistically is okay as long as you don't have to sell next month or next year. The loan contingency, if you've got great credit and you already got your written approval and you're done, great. Those two. But inspection contingency, I've never recommended to one client to ever remove the inspection contingency because perfect example. I had a client. I should say I had a lead.
Okay.
I took out and showed several houses, and his wife, girlfriend, I guess it was, fell in love with this one house. It had nothing he wanted. He didn't really want a pool. He'd take a pool because she wanted a pool, but he wanted RV parking and all this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Big yard, all this stuff. And that's what we've been looking at. But she wanted to go look at this one house and she fell in love with it. We wrote an offer. It wasn't accepted.
Okay.
And all of a sudden he ghosted me. And 2 months goes by and I talked to the lender we were dealing with, and she said, they went ahead and bought 123 Main Street, whatever it was. And I went, really? That's just is so weird to me. Who did they use? The listing agent. Okay. So, okay. It happened. A year and a half, 2 years down the road, I get a call from him. She's gone. And he's wanting to sell because he hates it.
Mm-hmm.
He hates it. But they bought it on the assumption that this was everything. Well, the pool drain didn't actually, the backyard didn't actually drain clear to the street. I mean, there was a whole bunch of issues that would have been found maybe had it been inspected by him and his people rather than them and their people, right?
Yeah.
I don't know whether they waived contingencies, didn't, but I do know that when it came time to sell and we started doing inspections, because I always believe do inspections ahead of time rather than let the buyer do them. Get all your inspections done. So this is what we found.
Yep.
And that was one of the things we found is it didn't drain out to the street. So it was, I don't remember, $8,000 or something to tear up the concrete alongside of the house, take a patch out to put a drain out to the street so the backyard would drain.
So I've got a question that's a bit of a tangent, and it's a bit of a charged question, but you've given me permission thus far that nothing's off the table. Explain to your audience, if you will, what procuring cause is, and how did that apply to that situation that you were just in? Now, I will say, from your side, you have a choice of whether you want to address or pursue procuring cause, but it's a question most home buyers have no idea what it means, and I'll leave it at that. I have a couple of comments, but I'd love for you to kind of explain that. I think it's a good lead in.
Yeah, no. Procuring cause is you are the agent, you are the person that caused the deal to happen. Whether it's a house, whether it's a car, whether it's Rice Krispies, it doesn't matter. You are the reason that somebody is purchasing something. The procuring cause is that person that started the deal. And the procuring cause in that case was me. It was. Did I go through with all the things I could have? No, because I don't. I believe if I didn't do a good enough job to keep you in my arena, then even though there may have been something, I don't know whether there was actually something where she did anything. Maybe it was the girlfriend went on her own to the listing agent. I don't know. And if you don't know, you can't really address that. So
the reason I bring it up to all of my buyers as I do my initial consultation. And I've got a process that I talk through with people and take a half hour, 40 minutes. And the funny thing is that half hour to 40 minutes, we talk nothing about monthly payment. We talk nothing about interest rate or income. It's education about the home buying process and that kind of thing, and in the mortgage world. But one of the things I mention is procuring cause, because so many, especially in today's world, so many people have access to information at their fingertips, and they say, hey, C. Ray's my agent. I love C. Ray, but it's Sunday afternoon and C. Ray's watching the Niners beat the Cowboys this Sunday. You Niners fan, C. Ray?
Yep.
Okay, good. So C. Ray's watching the Niners beat the Cowboys this coming Sunday. I don't want to bother him, so I'm just going to call the listing agent and have them show me the home. Legally, the listing agent has the right to represent you, and that you've, for all intents and purposes, hired her as your representation. And she can fight C. Ray to say, nope, they're my client because I'm the one that showed them and opened the home for them. Right. Would you agree with that description?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's something that in the Zillow Redfin world that we're in, you click the button because it says, hey, we can have a Redfin agent show this property to you in 30 minutes. In a way, you've hired that Redfin agent. And sure, just like with C. Ray, he didn't pursue it because it's a contractual issue, and the person who was the procuring cause has to fight it, and some fights just aren't worth fighting. But as a home buyer, do you want to have to deal with that? Do you want to have a situation where C. Ray says, look, I want to do the right thing by you, but the truth is I need to now get permission from that agent to represent you because they opened the house for you.
Right.
And if that agent doesn't give C. Ray that permission, we're in a pickle. And it's a self-inflicted wound. And I hate when people have self-inflicted wounds due to, I'll call it ignorance. I don't like that word. C. Ray probably have a better word for that, but lack of knowledge. I hate that we put ourselves in a pickle simply because we had no awareness.
Yep. And it does happen often, more often than it needs to because of that. And on your book you had,
my book, yep.
on the book, it says there are many articles out there that tell buyers to hire the listing agent.
Yep.
Because they can get a better deal.
I could imagine that I could get a better deal by hiring the attorney that's representing the guy that's suing me as well, because he's already going to be in court. And so if I hire him, he doesn't have any extra travel costs. He doesn't have any extra discovery costs because he already knows all the information, so I can hire him. Is that a good idea? I don't think so.
The analogy I use all the time, that exact one.
It's true. There are creative shortcuts that people can take that come with risk. And everything in life is risk versus reward. And you might secure a home because you're going to the listing agent. You might get a better deal because they cut their commission. You might end up with a pool that doesn't drain to the street and stuck with some major challenges on a home that end up costing you a whole lot more than what you saved in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But such is life, right?
Such is life, my friend. Such is life.
John, I want to respect your time. Thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate you. It's always a great conversation, whether it's live here or whether we're sitting down together. I really appreciate you. Anybody, John Loan King, the Loan King, Summit Funding, all this information been scrolling down below. Make sure and reach out to him if you have any questions, or me. You all go out and be the sunshine in somebody's rainy day, and we will see you all real soon.
Thanks, C. Ray. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Hey, thank you.